From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm here with friend of the show and a good friend of mine, Ryan Waterbury. Ryan, in his business, One Dog Solutions, has just increased all his pricing. So I thought we'd get Ryan on and talk about why he increased his pricing, how he increased his pricing, and share that, because I truly believe many businesses don't charge what they're valued at. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, and enjoy this conversation that Ryan and I had. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm here with my friend Ryan Waterbury, and we thought we'd talk about pricing for an agency and why Ryan changed all his pricing. How are you today, Ryan?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing well. Hotter than hot. Canada, as we were talking in the pre-show, is in the deep heat wave. We're over 100 in Toronto today with the humidity, and I don't want to go outside, so we might as well stay inside and record a podcast. It's a better idea, I think.
Exactly. We're finally getting a little spot of rain today, so it's time to stay inside and do work and stay dry.
Yeah, I know you've been on with me before, and we've done a couple together. Let's talk about a little bit about your background. If you give your background just for people who haven't heard you speak before, please.
Sure. I've been in the communications industry for over 20 years, traditional graphic design and technical management for large web and commercial printers in North America. Started making the shift to doing consulting and digital work around 2010, 2012, and fully shifted completely to a full digital agency and dropping all my offline print work in 2016. So since then, I've been doing web design, SEO, and PPC management for clients full time. So almost 10 years off in the agency world on my own doing that. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I can appreciate that. And why I thought we'd get together today is talk about pricing a little bit, which is always the problem in the WordPress space or the agency space. A lot of companies look at pricing from what can I get and not pay a lot, which personally I think is a big mistake, because one of the things you pay for in pricing is expertise. What's your feeling around that?
It was last year, actually. I wrote a blog post about should I hire a web designer? And there are so many DIY solutions out there: Squarespace, Weebly, Wix, even WordPress.com. That to get a website up isn't really difficult. It's only getting easier by the day. But I made the point in that article that you get what you pay for. And 90% of the websites out there don't get any traffic. I mean, zero. They may get one visitor a day. And that's usually a bot crawl. So if you're not getting any visitors, why put up a website? So that's where the working with a professional comes in and helping to optimize your site. And that takes time and experience and expertise. So there's some cost involved with that. So
I would agree with you, and it's funny when we talk about that, because the episode I released a couple of days ago, 133, was do not DIY your website. And if you remember, and I basically took this on head on, because I don't think a business owner is spending their money in the right place. They're looking at it saying, oh, it doesn't cost me anything. And I always look at it from the perspective, well, if you spent 5 hours doing a website, what would you have been making hourly in your business if you had spent the time working on your core business? And then what would a web designer, a pro, have done? It probably would have taken them 2 hours to do what took you 5. So you're paying for expertise and getting it done faster, and it allows you to concentrate on your core business, right?
Oh, exactly. And it's, I talk about, our maintenance plans that I do through my agency, One Doc Solutions, that WordPress is easy if you know it. And if you work with it, and I shouldn't even say that, it's not. You and I both know that. There are fun times, even when you think you've got everything buttoned up, that something happens. And that's when you you turn to the professional, because if you break your website and you're a customer, you DIY'd, can you really afford to spend a day working on fixing that and not working on running your business and making money?
Yeah, it's so true. And I mean, I take that approach even with other stuff that's not website based, like with accounting and legal stuff. I will go and I have a lawyer on retainer and I have an accountant on retainer, because frankly, I'm better off doing other stuff than doing those particular things. Now, you talk about the website and breaking it. I'll share with you a story I haven't shared with you. You know, the story of the client who decided to go elsewhere and all of that. Well, they decided to go on their own for 3 days and they've already been hacked. And that the cleaning up the hack is costing the client more than if they had paid for a maintenance plan and had proper backups taken.
Exactly. And, you don't realize that you need maintenance and need to keep up on supporting your website and spend time on it until it's too late.
Yep.
One of my former clients had moved to another local agency, do their hosting and maintenance, and they had asked if I could look at something for them. I think they had 35 plugins out of date. WordPress was 3 versions behind. The theme was extremely outdated, and they were all security flags and security updates. I just said, "What are you guys doing?" And I just told them, "So here's where you need to get that information. I strongly suggest you take some time and update your website. If you'd like to contact me again to go through and help you with that, I'd be happy to." And I hadn't heard anything from them. Next thing I know, their website's offline for a month while they screwed around with fixing it.
Yeah, of course, because they don't realize that you have to do timely updates. I mean, 9 out of 10 times, most new websites I look at when I take people on as a client, they're 4 months out of date, 5 months out of date, 6 months out of date. And
At least.
And I don't know about you, but even on care plans, I go a different approach than many people. I don't include the cost of the plugin licenses in the care plans. So if you want to use Gravity Forms, you better have a license for it. If you want to use Elementor, you better have a license for it, because I'll update them, but if they don't update, you don't have a license. That's on you. And one of the reasons I've taken that approach is I believe in client ownership of things, and that way they own their property. So if they decide they want to go elsewhere, they're not in this, oh, well, this isn't my plugin, this isn't mine. Typically, the only plugins I do provide are security plugins, and that's another story. So,
Right. And I'm on the other side of the fence on that one, where I've got agency licenses for a lot of the software, and I've opted that as an attractive piece in my web care plan, that we keep these updated. We know this stack of software works well and works well together, so your website will be trouble-free, and you can use those as long as you stay on a care plan.
Yep.
So, I have clients that, most of my clients on a web care plan, I think one of the larger ones, they have a lot of users that log in. to do different things on their site and update information. But I have one other client. That's the only other one that ever logs in, and it's rarely. And that's to post a blog once a month. That's it. Most of my other clients don't ever log into their sites.
We are pretty well in the same here. Most of my clients don't log in their sites either. They just like it all to be done for them, and then that's just the way it is, right? They won't even log in to post something. It's like, could you do this for me?
So go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so what do you use as a measurement for pricing when you're dealing with care plans? Like, what is your, how do you measure now your care plans? Your prices have all gone up. How did you come to the new figures, and what did you do?
Ironically enough, it was earlier this year. I had been wrapping in, half an hour of maintenance on, my lowest care plan. I had 3 plans. The lowest care plan was really basic, half an hour of, updates a month. And, it was fine. Some clients never used the updates, some did, some were over. The next plan added in some e-commerce because WooCommerce extensions. Now agency licensing is gone. So you're on individual. So that plan went up, a good chunk, because I do include those extensions. And I have some other third-party add-ons that are agency licensed, but not all of them. So that had to go up because my costs went up. And then the third plan, well, that had everything in the kitchen sink. And I looked at raising the pricing on that realistically, and I said, it's going to be high. And some people don't need all that. So what I did is I kept my 2 lower plans the same price. And what I did is I broke out different add-ons for email sending service, membership add-on, privacy policies, terms and conditions policies, additional time. If somebody wanted to do those regular blog updates and have me do those or update things in their site, they could buy those blocks of time, pre-billed in a monthly recurring as a small retainer. So it split down the middle about 50-50, that some clients kept their plans and they said, oh, we're good. And the other half either updated their plan or added additional add-ons that they had before. So it was a modular approach that didn't rock the boat for clients that didn't want to be shocked with the price increase, but it also allowed the clients that wanted those additional services to say, hey, I need that and I will pay for that. So I gave them a choice, and I always believe in giving my clients a choice rather than wrapping in a big all-encompassing plan and they finally look at it one month and say, I don't need all that. So that was the first step. But inflation's coming, and I looked at, again, my SaaS providers, their licenses are going up. So in turn, I recently sent out an update to my clients that, hey, our vendor pricing has risen. So these few items are going up in price, and my hourly rate, if they ask for additional work, has gone up. Not a lot, but enough that it warranted communication.
I think that's the key with clients, is to do communication, just to be upfront. In terms of your care plans, do you have any restrictions around, and I know it's not really a pricing question, but do you have any restrictions around what web hosts they can be on? Like, have you gone that far and said, if it's on certain hosts, I won't touch it, actually?
I haven't done that. And I haven't. I probably should add that clause. Recently went through and did some testing to website optimization for Google's Core Web Vitals, and tested a few different hosts and went through several of the big name providers, and I was just floored at how difficult it was to set things up. And so I'm probably going to have a no GoDaddy rule here pretty soon.
I actually have a no GoDaddy rule, and no 1-in-1 rule, and no EIG rule. If it's on any of those, I'll move it off, but I'm not going there at all.
Right. And I actually, with the baseline test, HostGator, I was pleasantly surprised at how easy they were to work with. Their control panel worked great. They actually had some server-side caching. So I want to go through and test a few more hosts out there, but every one of my clients wants to be on my hosting. I manage Vultr, high-frequency servers, or UpCloud, the fastest cloud servers out there, and have an aggressive caching stack. So the biggest benefit or upgrade in the testing that I had from a baseline hosting provider, through full optimization, was just the hosting, being a good hosting, get you points with Google. So
and good caching. The host I use is all Lightspeed cache based on the back end. So the Lightspeed caching plugin is a wonderful thing in that case. And really, people need to start looking at hosting when they're looking at pricing as part of their solution, not part of the problem. So they need to go and find a host that's a partner to them. And I don't mean just for hosting, I mean for security, I mean for everything. The host has to be a partner in this. They can't be on their own.
Yeah, I mean, managed hosting, and you ask kind of where I come in for baseline. I look at other managed hosting out there. So I'll take Kinsta as an example. Google Cloud in the back end, and they're extremely fast. They help you with WordPress problems. They manage your hosting. I mean, they start at $30 a month, but when you sign up, you don't have that personal touch, for any minor updates or issues. But we start to compare that pricing. Managed fast hosting costs money. It's not $275 a month that you see out there in all the ads.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's worth mentioning Sorry. I said it's so true, and it's worth mentioning that anybody that's looking for a way to test their hosting, I don't know if people know, there's a really cool Faster Slow website by the folks over at WordFence, and they've now even included in the Faster Slow uptime monitoring for free, believe it or not. So,
oh, wow.
And that's a change they made in the last couple weeks. So a shout out to those guys. I know on the security side, I'm either a WordFence or a iThemes, depending on the site. I like both products very well. So I think the folks over at WordFence are doing a really good job. And I think that's worth checking too, if you want to measure your hosting. Let's move on to pricing for PPC campaigns. How do you typically do PPC pricing? Because I know the way I run it is I do a percentage of ad spend. How do you do yours?
I've done that purely if I have a customer that's going to spend a lot of money on a campaign. But with the mid-level or mid-level businesses, regional businesses, normally I have a base monthly retainer plus percentage of ad spend, where the percentage of ad spend is a little bit lower because they're spending less. But I found that that's something that most clients are happy with, as far as they're seeing results. They can justify the cost, and as we scale up with ads and spending and more management with more campaigns, certainly that comes back, in revenue for me, but they see more results out of that as well. So everybody's been happy with that type of pricing.
Do you take the approach on PPC campaigns that the cost of the ads has to be billed directly to the client, so you don't even see the cost of that, or do you bill the cost of the ads to you and then bill the client back the ads?
No, clients, they own their ad accounts, particularly with Google ad campaigns. I add their ad account to my master controller. Their credit card is on their account. They're responsible for all the campaign billing. And at the end of the month, I take a look at the spend in the account, put together a report on, how many conversions we had, traffic, changes we made, and include that along with an invoice.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the other one to move on to, which always gets people into trouble, is SEO pricing. Oh, yeah. And
Yeah,
how do you handle that? Because a lot of people have the attitude that SEO is you said it once, it's done. You don't go back to it, and then they don't touch it, and they wonder why they start to fall off the grid. What's your theory on that and pricing around that?
that's all monthly retainer, and that's actually a pre-bill before, so the month prior. And so generally, what we'll do is we'll start with an evaluation, see where we're at, see what talk about some goals with the clients, and in 90 days, then we take another evaluation and say,
Yep.
okay, here's some things that we did. We see that your lead conversion from organic traffic is up. We can do some more work here, and then we take another look at the retainer. But yeah, that's always a monthly retainer. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And we agree on the scope of work. It doesn't go outside that. And that's why I take, that first 90-day approach to say, okay, what did we do? What's working? And do we need to do some more things or less?
What's your approach on clients who call you up and they say, hey, Ryan, I got this little job and I know it's only going to take you 2 hours and I'm not going to go above the 2 hours. How do you handle stuff like that?
That happened recently where it was one of those things. And it was a tie-in with WooCommerce. Oh, you should be able to do it with this. And I said, no way. That's not only integrating with your membership levels, but WooCommerce, your end billing, and also your email marketing list. So that's, a whole lot of touch points to go through and test and make sure everything's connected. It's not just this. And at any time a client says it should just be this, you can guarantee it's going to be 3 times the amount of work involved with that to do it the proper way.
Almost always. Yeah. And then we all get those clients who call you up and say, I'd like to talk for 10 minutes. And 20 minutes in, they're trying to get advice that they should be paying for. And so, how do you handle that?
So that's one of the things that when, I put ongoing updates, right in my description, I say that, it can be for blog posting, adding a review, updating a menu, helping you format a newsletter, or meeting time. So if they want to do weekly meetings, that's part of the ongoing updates plan. And I do 30-minute, 1 hour, 3 hour, and 5 hour blocks. So that if you want to continue on that plan, that's time out of my day that I'm not working on other projects, and inevitably it's always additional advice on things that they should be paying for. Yeah. So yeah, that's one that I'm putting a firmer foot down, that if you want to bill some time, that if you want to talk and take some time, you can buy a block of time and we can schedule recurring, or I'm going to start adding book time where you can prepay for whatever time you want, if it's at that level.
Yeah. The book time approach, I know, is the approach our friend Devinder goes. It's the approach I go. If somebody calls me up and says, I'd like to talk to you, my rule of thumb is I usually will give them 10 minutes. And then after that, I stop and say, okay, so you want some more advice? So here's where it inevitably goes. And here's a payment link. You can make a payment. Once the payment's made, if you want to continue the conversation now, we can. If you want to continue it later, we can. But please understand there's a cost to this, and that's just the reality.
Exactly. And that's it's just the nature with the creative industry that sites like Fiverr have really ruined some of the pricing. That some of these things have become a commodity, and that's just the nature of technology. But when it comes to my time, if you want to waste my time, and instead of yours, if you're looking for a solution, then you should pay for it, because I spent time learning that.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and you've kept yourself up to date. And people always say, "Oh, it's time," but what people forget is you have a house to run, you have utilities to run, you have expenses from running a business. There's way more there than just somebody's time. Like I always say to people, you're not selling time, you're selling the person you want to work with. And
Exactly.
I'm really kind of hard on that one.
Yeah, it's the experience and expertise. I've been doing uh, server management for 25 years now,
Yep.
and I know that intimately well. And if you have a problem and want to have me help you through it, I'd be happy to. But you're also going to pay for my 25 years of experience.
Yep. And it's much different than somebody who's got 1 year experience out of college. And I don't understand how some business owners turn around and say, "Oh, I want to hire that kid out of college, and but I want him to have." And you look at the laundry list of what they're asking for, and it's like somebody who's been doing this for 20 years, and you've got to shake your head some days at it and say, "Is this really what he wants?" Like it's
Yes, some of the requests out there for employees and experience are just ludicrous. But um, yeah, this year especially, looking at pricing of all the goods and services around me rising, and then I started seeing the direct costs of my services that I offer to like server hosting costs, email marketing software costs. That's the first one that I noticed. I said, "Whoa, this has gone up considerably. I really need to look and adjust my pricing because now it's costing me money instead of being part of one of my profitable solutions." So
yeah. I always, the approach I take too when I'm billing is, so say you have a client and you decide to do a discount for some reason. I always bill out in full, and then I show the discount on the invoice. And the reason I do that is I want the client to understand how much this actually costs them and what they're actually getting.
I did that for a client for an e-commerce add-on, and I gave them a pretty healthy discount because it's a nonprofit that I'm involved in and support. But I took the total billable hours and I said, okay, this is actually about normal for e-commerce, and it wasn't anything too crazy, but just baseline, and gave them a flatline discount. And I said, they looked at the total hours, total time. They were absolutely tickled pink with the results of the store when it was done. It produced 10 times the amount of revenue that they anticipated. And then they looked back and they said, well, that was nothing, when they looked at the cost and they looked at the line item discount. I said, I can't donate this, huge amount of money, but I can give you a nice break on this as an intern donation.
Yeah. And I think you have to do that because I think honestly, when you bury discounts and you say, "Oh, I'll give you $10 off my hourly rate," or whatever you decide to do, you will never get the client to appreciate it till you actually show it spelled out. And that's something I've learned.
Well, and yeah, I've learned that too, that if you start at a baseline rate, you don't show it, that's the rate that you're always going to be boxed into, always.
Yeah.
And that you'll never be on what you, and it's not even want to make. I've done all the calculations where, I look at my bills at the end of the month and, putting money in for retirement, for taxes at the end of the year and bills, and, working back from that on what do you need to make. It was really an eye opener on, the first time I went solo on adjusting my rates. I said, holy cow, I am not charging enough at all.
Yeah.
And I still do it today. And, I've been consulting for 15 years. You're still making pricing adjustments. Always, always, always.
Yep. Yeah. One of the things I did this year to share is I upped all my care plan prices, everything for security updates. And one of the reasons, and people say, well, how can you do that? And I said, well, I'm actually updating your sites 3 times a week, not once a week. And the reason I'm doing that is the WordPress space has changed so much with the pandemic. All these hackers are at home, and all these hackers are looking for, they're bored like everybody else. Yeah. And so I made a decision this year that I was going to update sites 3 times a week, and that meant pricing went up. And people said, but wait a minute, I'm getting the same. And I'm saying, no, you're not getting the same now.
No. There have been so many security exploits, uncovered. One, I got to thank a lot of the plugin developers for being more diligent. But you're right. I looked at my security logs when the pandemic started, and within the first week, the amount of IP addresses and hosts blocked by the web application firewall and failed to ban was just 2 or 3 times within the first week.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous.
It's like I have a couple sites, honestly, they're taking 100% more script attacks than they were taking before the pandemic. And that's not being outrageous or disgusting. And clients are looking at this saying, oh, well, it's the same amount of work. And I'm like, no, it's not. I mean, it's not the same amount of work.
No, the security, iThemes has a nice security update, and it used to come out monthly. It comes out, I think it's been coming out twice a month for a while now.
For over 2 years. Yeah, it comes out at the beginning of the month and mid-month. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm glad that I read that. I've been fortunate not to have too many pieces of software that hit the list, but keeping up on that and making sure that your sites are clean, up to date, that your firewall rules are up to date, and you're constantly improving to stay 1 step ahead of hackers. Clients don't appreciate how much time that takes.
Yeah, they really don't. And if anybody's looking for some information on security, I would be signing up for the iThemes update. It's free for anybody. I would be looking at the Think Like a Hacker podcast by WordFence. I would be looking at WordFence's office hours on their YouTube page at 12 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. I also subscribe to Sophos, which is one of the big security podcasts out there, which it's pretty heavily technical. And then there's a really cool security newsletter called Hacker News. And I'm telling you, all you got to do is spend some time reading this stuff and keeping up to date, which the small business owner's not going to do. And your head is just going to hate. You're going to hate your head in the morning. Like, honestly, it's pretty. And those group of stuff is part of my regime every week, every day. And typically what I do with the office hours is I'll watch them on the weekend just to kind of keep up to date. But I mean, honestly, there's a lot of stuff out there. And if you think you can handle it, go ahead and try. But I would say you're better off in a care plan and let somebody do it who's done it.
Well, yeah, I over the past year, I've done some different scheduling techniques, and Mondays and Fridays, primarily, I do catch up client work in the mornings. Little things that I, find that I need to do, or, small requests. But primarily that's, when I'm doing updates. And then I work on my own business things in the afternoons. And part of that is, what you just talked about, reading those security blogs, reading a search engine journal, and other educational tips, so I can stay on top of things that are relevant. That, you're right, your regular business owner doesn't do that at all. And that's part of the expertise that we offer, and it takes time to learn that.
It's so true, and it also takes time to make the contacts. I mean, I'm pretty lucky. I've got contacts up at iThemes. I've got contacts up at WordFence. I mean, Kathy Zant, the marketing manager, is a Facebook friend. I talk quite frequently on Facebook or LinkedIn. I've got or Twitter. As I am doing less and less Facebook by the day. But I mean, her team's all pretty accessible. They're all pretty converse. If you want some really hardcore security, you can always go listen to Security Now, which has Steve Gibson in it. If you know Steve, he's the creator of SpinRite and many. He's actually the guy who coined the term spyware, believe it or not. So, and he's been around a long time. He's older, he's quirky, but he knows what he's doing. So, that factors. And, I've rattled off 5 podcasts and 3 journals. That's like 12 hours, 13 hours a week there, and just keeping up to date.
Oh, exactly. I mean, you could spend as much or as little time as you want to on keeping up to date on things. And there's just so much stuff out there. It can become overwhelming.
And that's why I'm sort of saying to people, if you're a small business owner, get a hold of somebody like Ryan or myself and get a care plan, because you don't have time to do all this. And the other thing too is what people don't realize is in the developers community, people talk. We all talk. We have daily conversations. If something breaks, you're going to know about it. Somebody's going to throw it out there sooner than later. So.
Oh, exactly. And that's the nice thing about WordPress and the community in general, that the marketing groups that I belong to, I'll exclude SEO from that because some of those folks can be pretty helpful, but marketing, they don't want to give you the secret sauce. They're not super helpful. But when you start talking with the open source community like WordPress, there's discussions happening daily with other agency owners and other professionals, and we all learn from each other. We have some of the same problems, some are different. Sometimes we learn not to make some of the same mistakes. But that's a benefit to every one of my clients on the care plan. That it's the research and community that I take in. So it's not just me that they get. It's a whole world of resources from the care plan.
So true. Before we wrap this up, one last question I wanted to get to is, how do you handle grandfathered in pricing? Like if you've got a client that's been with you, say for 5 years, and then you kind of increase your pricing, do you pass that on? Do you pass a percentage on? How do you handle that?
It kind of depends. If I've got clients that have been on legacy pricing forever, and there's a real cost attached to them. Let's say my cloud server costs go up, or I have another SaaS solution that helps me with security that goes up. There's just no way around that. And I've talked to a few clients that was part of why I broke out the add-ons, for one. because those were starting to increase. So that was the first step. But I'm looking at other pricing, and I think just my base care plan pricing is too low for some of the things included, particularly the e-commerce one. Just those costs for the add-ons for WooCommerce keep going up. I've been pretty fortunate to have regular conversations and good relationships with my clients, so that when I say, hey, pricing is going to go up, and here's why. Our end pricing that we have for these services is going up, or bringing on staff, or changing some things for a benefit. I had a requirement that all sites that I host now, especially with forums or any type of donation, they all have to have a privacy policy. I said, you can either provide one from your lawyer, or I can sell one to you. Mm-hmm. So I kept their care plan price the same, but I said, you can either do this or you can purchase the add-on because it's an additional cost. So I tried to do things like that and get creative, so I can give clients options to be modular. But you can only go so far with that.
So true. So true. Thanks for your time today, Ryan. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how's the best way?
At One Dog Solutions on Facebook, although I'm not on there very much anymore. At One Dog Solutions on Twitter, Instagram, or Ryan.Waterbury at onedog.solutions.
Thanks, Ryan. Have an amazing day, my friend. Be well.
You as well.
Thank you. I want to thank Ryan Waterbury for joining me on today's episode. It's always insightful to sit down and talk to Ryan and have a great chat with him. We always enjoy our chats, and we hope we gave the listeners some great value today. Thanks again, Ryan. You're always appreciated. Thanks for listening to the SDM Show. The show is a production of Stunning Digital Marketing, and all rights are reserved. Rob can be reached by email at vip@stunningdigitalmarketing.com, on Twitter at Rob Cairns, on his website, stunningdigitalmarketing.com, and on his website there's links to all his social media platforms. This show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Make your business succeed.